So this is the Auburn City Council meeting. I have nothing to report out of closed session, but I would like to call the regular session to order now. Roll call.
Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Holmes.
Present.
And Mayor Amara.
Present. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which is one nation, indivisible, with liberty.
Keep mine up here.
Thank you for being here tonight. Our first item is the Mayor's Commendation, Proclamation, and Acknowledgement. And the first one we have tonight is the Hunger Action Month Proclamation. So can Denise Hoffman please step to the podium? Oh. Hi, Andy. Sorry, Andy. You're more than welcome. Oh, okay. So in the matter, it's a proclamation recognizing September 2025 as Hunger Action Month in Placer County. Whereas Feeding America, the largest charity working to end hunger in the United States, has designated the month of September 2025 as Hunger Action Month to bring continued awareness that hunger and poverty are issues of serious concern in the United States. And whereas there are Auburn area individuals and families who experience food insecurities and must make difficult choices every day of whether to buy healthy food or pay for housing, utilities, transportation, or medical care. And whereas the City Council is committed to raising awareness of hunger needs and commends the ongoing efforts of the Auburn Interfaith Food Closet, an agency partner of Feeding the Foothills, and the numerous hunger relief organizations throughout the area who provide no-cost nutritious food to families in need. And whereas the City Council encourages its citizens and businesses to support these organizations as they rely on financial and food donations from our community. And whereas food banks and food closets across the country will host events and activities throughout the month of September, and the Auburn Interfaith Food Closet will be hosting a neighborhood food drive on Saturday, September 20th, 2025. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that I, Sandra Amara, Mayor of the City of Auburn, on behalf of the City Council, whereby we hereby recognize September as Hunger Action Month and encourage all of our citizens and businesses to support the efforts of local food agencies to reduce hunger in our area. Thank you very much for all you do. Andy and Denise, like to say something?
Yes, thank you. Sandra and the council members, thank you very much for entertaining us here today. It's only appropriate that Denise join me on the stage today, as this will be my last time doing this. Denise is going to succeed me as the president of the organization come June. She is shadowing with me for a full year, because that way she will hopefully see all the problems once and be able to deal with it. For you to know, we are running about the same level of service this year as we did last year. We have not seen a significant uptick, but we are at our high water mark of ever. We can, as far as we can tell, we're touching about 90% of the food insecure people in our community, at least once a year, but many of them every month. But we are, biggest risk for going into the next year is going to be policy changes and that are rippling through health services throughout the country and certainly locally, that may tighten food budgets for the people living at the margin, and as such drive them to us more often. We are blessed that we do not have a significant amount of our money based on grants from federal government or state government. So we are in a position to respond, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next one is a commendation for the contributions to preserving the history of Auburn's fire service. And I want to call Carol Kramer and April McDonald Loomis to the podium, please. So, for the two of you, whereas the Auburn Hook and Ladder Company #1 and the Auburn Fire Department have served the city of Auburn with pride and honor for over 170 years, and their legacy represents a vital chapter of the city's history. And whereas Carol Kramer and
April McDonald Loomis
has dedicated countless hours to supporting Auburn Hook and Ladder Company #1 and the Auburn Fire Department by researching, organizing, and preserving generations of historical records, photographs, uniforms, equipment, and personal accounts. And whereas their efforts supported the release of a comprehensive historical book in June of 2025 that tells the story of Auburn's fire service from its founding by volunteers to the modern department we know today, ensuring that history is not lost, but instead honored and shared. And whereas through their work, Carol Kramer
and April McDonald Loomis have demonstrated a commitment to community service, historical preservation, and civic pride, enriching Auburn and providing a lasting legacy for future generations.
Now, therefore, I, Sandra Amara, Mayor of the City of Auburn and Vice Mayor, on behalf of the City of Auburn, do hereby recognize and express our sincere appreciation to Carol Kramer and
April McDonald Loomis
for their outstanding contributions to the preserving Auburn's fire service history, and commend both of you for your dedication. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, we're still taking pictures here. How about the fire?
Surprise, surprise.
I just want to say that
Thanks, good job.
the historical community, well represented by April here, when I twist arms and ask them to contribute, they rise to the occasion. And April created, and if you haven't seen the book, a wonderful history that 200, 300 years from now, we will have. And that's really, really important to me, to see that our history doesn't get lost. And so thank you, April, and thank you.
I just have a quick word. Doing this book was way too much fun. And working with these fire guys was just absolutely tremendous. They had great stories. Some of them didn't make it in the book. They were too good to be told, but they were helpful and they just did anything I asked. And it was just a lot of fun to do.
Mayor Mara, Council, thanks for taking the opportunity tonight to recognize these two ladies. I just want to give you a real quick synopsis of how we got here. So in January of 2023, Carol and I had a conversation about preserving our history, the fire department's history. And that ended up turning into an 18-month-long process. I've got retired Fee Sam McLean and, retired Chief Sam McLean and retired Chief John Fee in the back, and then retired Captain Herb Yu were the three Hook and Ladder Company members that really spearheaded working with April and Carol to catalog all of the fire department's history and get the book going. So 18 months, multiple people have attempted this project throughout the last 20 years, so much so that we even sold advanced copies of the book and had to return the money over a decade ago to everyone because we couldn't make it happen. So again, I wanted to just thank these ladies, all the members, past and present, of the Auburn Fire Department, Auburn Hook and Ladder Company, really appreciate their efforts. And Carol made sure to tell me that April did not want a plaque for her efforts. So instead, I got them 2 little packages. No plaques, just some items for their Christmas trees. So thanks.
Thank you, Chief Rogers. This brings us to the time set aside for council members and/or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or a change to the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Any changes from the public? Do I have a motion?
Actually, Madam Mayor, as a point of order, I meant to say this when under mayor's commendations and proclamations acknowledgements. Respectfully, I'd like to request that we adjourn our meeting tonight in memory of Jimmy Wall, who recently passed away. They had his celebration of life over the weekend, and I just think it's appropriate and fitting for us to do so. So unless there's objection, I'd like to have that done, Madam Mayor.
That's appropriate. Any objection? Okay, thank you. So we have anyone from the public want to change any item on the agenda? There's actually only one item. So do I have a motion?
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda, all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Do I have anyone from council who would like any of the 4 consent items removed? Anyone from the public? Do I have a motion?
I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
And Mayor Amar.
Yes, thank you very much. That passes. And public comment. This is the time provided so that the public may speak to the council on any item not on the agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on items not included on this agenda. Items may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Do I have any public comment from? Yes.
I
Councilwoman
just
Riddell
wanted
Harris.
to say thank you to our staff and all of the people that came out to watch the kickball game. The Chamber of Commerce put up a fight, but they weren't any match for our team. So thank you to everyone from staff and all of those people. It was a great time. The food truck fiesta was great. ARD always puts on a great event, and so everyone had a really good time. So we will be defending our trophy once again next year, so that'll be fun.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Holmes?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to suggest that we start looking at making Auburn a cultural district. You know, several other cities in our region have already done that. You know, we have a symphony, we've got the Auburn State Theater, which has been serving the public for 95 years. And we've got a lot of art events going on in the community. And so I want to start looking at some ways that we could get get the city designated as a cultural district, which then gives us opportunity to apply for more grants. I just want to say in passing that, as the public knows, the Auburn State Theater had some difficulties with them asbestos and other things that, so it's taking a while to get all of that repaired. And but we will, the Auburn State Theater will beginning to reach out and try to start some fundraising to get put back together and open up again. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, we need to talk to staff about the cultural district idea. Okay, anyone from the public have public comment? Okay, then moving on to council business. So this is a discussion and direction regarding commercial cannabis activities and land uses. Have public comment. Jonathan? Okay, then moving on to council business. So this is a discussion and direction regarding commercial cannabis activities and.
Good job, Sandy.
Pretty good, huh?
All right. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Jonathan Wright, Economic Development Director. This is a lengthy slideshow presentation. It's out there on the record. I'll try to summarize where I can so you don't have to hear me any longer than you need to. I do have to say that this is not the first time I've stood in front of a council and discussed cannabis regulations. In 2016, I actually passed a cannabis ordinance in a previous city. Part of it was looking proactively at regulations with the time, place, and manner, and being able to actually control the future of that industry within the city in which I worked. We also had some safety issues that came out of that. We had one young man actually blow himself up with a butane device. He was trying to manufacture some type of cannabis-related product in his home and ended up doing some significant damage to himself. Very similarly, we actually last week had a butane incident, not related to that type of thing, but still seeing how volatile those types of processes can be when they're allowed to be unregulated and people are trying to do this stuff themselves. So I looked at it as legal access was probably the best way going forward, and that's what we did, and that was almost 10 years ago. So it's been a while. Just a little timeline. So California, before 1996, there's prohibition on cannabis. Afterwards, they did allow for medicinal purposes the use of cannabis, and then it was modified in 2015 to create more of a structured approach, allowing licensing, medical cannabis cultivation, distribution, and sales under a more strict set of rules. Quickly after that, 2016, voters passed Prop 64. So that was also about 10 years ago, which allowed for the adult use of marijuana for anybody that was 21 and older, and created the regulatory framework we're actually dealing with today, only with some modification over time. Our current ordinance allows for medical cannabis by a primary caregiver to a qualified patient only. Other than that, the only other allowed use would be for indoor residential cultivation up to 6 cannabis plants, and that is under permit by the police chief. If we go back to a year and 8 months ago, we actually had this discussion. The city attorney was presenting on it, looking for direction and having discussion on where the council wanted to go with cannabis. And at that point, it was directed that policy recommendations should be created by staff and brought back for the city council for consideration. There's also a discussion about public outreach, and there was a request to do some visits with jurisdictions that had legalized cannabis. So we've been a little ways since there. We have had discussions with other jurisdictions. We've reviewed other jurisdictions' ordinances. We've toured dispensaries. We've given the opportunity to council members to also tour dispensaries and talk with a city that's legalized cannabis. And staff has even reached out to some of the local boards and committees and just kind of probed as to what the feeling is. And there seems to be general support for the legalization of certain cannabis operators in Auburn. State regulation. So I'm going to give you the full meal deal so you have everything out there. There is a number of different types of licenses: cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing, retail, microbusiness, and cannabis event licenses. I will tell you, cultivation is hard, especially indoor cultivation, because it takes a very massive and large building to do it profitably. And so those are usually in industrial areas. Being that we have just about 5% of our overall land base in industrial, and about 99% of it is currently used, there's not a lot of opportunity for that type of thing. Same thing with manufacturing and distributing. Those would all be kind of industrial uses. Testing laboratories I've seen in commercial zones, but they are also kind of favored towards the industrial side, which again, we don't have hardly any land base for. Retail licenses, we do have an abundance of available storefronts in places. And the microbusiness license, it's not something that would apply here. It allows for a micro business that qualifies to do processing, growing, sales, everything from their same location under one license, which is unusual because all these licenses, just like ABC licenses, aren't supposed to be stacked. And then the cannabis event license, I don't see that at any time soon being something that I would recommend to the council, just because of the culture that we've bred here. We're trying to be more family friendly and bring in kid activities and really focus on how do we, entertain our youth in the city here and try to bolster more youth activities that bring more families here and help our schools out, help everything else out, as well as our workforce. So basically, at this point, staff is only recommending really that we look at the retail license side, which would allow for a retail storefront and delivery. Delivery in the fact of just from the point of the retailer to wherever the end person is, that would then be the consumer. It's interesting because you can say, well, this isn't happening and, it's illegal to do this in Auburn. But if you actually do a quick Google search, you'll figure out that these things are actually delivering from Sacramento into the city. It only took me a few minutes to come up with a number of them. I mean, a Dank City will deliver here for at the minimum of $150 purchase. The one that's actually looking more like a retail storefront is actually Millennium. They are not in the city, but they're just outside our border, both one in North Auburn and one in Bowman. And they advertise that if you go into their store, you can use their kiosk and you'll receive your product in minutes. So just like a retail use. So this is happening around us. It's not like it's something that we are doing distinct. We would be, by doing retail cannabis in Auburn, it would just be basically putting together the regulations that we would want to see as far as operators and hopefully preventing things like this from happening. I do want to point out, that's a really good one. You can actually read it. I was going to ask anybody if they could read it on their printout because it came out so, okay. Well, that's great because it was an eye test. And you're going to disregard that highlighted section, look right below it, because as of June 27th, 2025, they changed the rules. So it was at one point that you had to have cultivation and retail in order to qualify for Proposition 64 grants. But now, if you look down there, it just says that you have to have retail storefronts, and if you're less than 10,000 residents, you can have just cannabis delivery in order to qualify. So they have expanded that significantly. Also, if you know that they just raised the excise tax to 19%. That's where a lot of this money comes from. Now, Prop 64 grants, I don't want you to confuse what you just saw in the paper about what we received and to buy police cars with. There are different types of cannabis grants. That's actually one through CHP for the law enforcement side. You'll see. This is a different grant, and you'll notice that there's.
Jonathan, I just wanted to interrupt one question, going back to that last slide on the grant, because we couldn't see that highlighted in the slide. I just want to make sure I understood what you said. That section has been changed, so it no longer
Right.
says that you said it just requires retail and distribution if you're under 10,000?
Yeah, it just says retail storefronts. It's right down here.
And
Retail
delivery,
sales.
but I thought you said something about with a population of 10,000 or less.
So if you're a smaller city, you don't have to have storefronts. You can just, as long as you allow distribution, both retail and medical.
Okay, great, but no more
So-
indoor or outdoor cultivation, okay, thank you.
I want to qualify this because when I started this process, it was in June. And so I was going off the other data and then honed in on that and, but since have revamped, so.
Thank you.
So you look at it, we receive, which is great, several $100,000 for the CHP grants for cannabis enforcement. These are much larger grants, and these cities are putting them to use for just about anything that they want to, as long as there's a nexus to cannabis or prevention of youth getting involved in cannabis by activities. Nevada City right now is building a skate park. That's what they spent their money on, as well as the flock cameras that they're putting in all over the place, as well as a closed net system. The Grass Valley is using it to help supplement wages for the SRO. They bought a masticator, I believe that's what it's called, for the fire department to reduce vegetation, which also keeps people from hiding there and doing different types of drugs. So they are cleaning out below these areas that would otherwise harbor people that would be doing nefarious activities. I don't know exactly what Marysville did, but since they're close and they also received $3 million, I just highlighted them because they're one of our neighbors. So what we're proposing, or at least looking at today, and so you can get kind of an understanding of what we're able to do in the way of regulating this, I put together just some draft ideas. So one of the first things we did was look at where these things could possibly go. I tried to apply a buffer around schools. I tried to apply them in areas that had logical dividing features like state highways, those types of things. I tried to put them in places where they weren't as obvious, just like you came off the highway and there's In-N-Out Burger and then there's, something else, cannabis use. And so I tried to prevent those from happening. And again, being conscientious of our old town and downtown, not trying to get into those high traffic areas, but in looking at areas surrounding that maybe needed some investment in those areas. First area is up off Nevada Street. So this is all commercially designated. Some of it's C3, some of it's C2. The positive is that this is far away from any type of school. The negative is it really doesn't have, there's not that many places up there for if they were going to just go in and rent somewhere. There's not a lot of options there, but it is a fairly large land area. It is isolated and would provide an opportunity if somebody even wanted to do a greenfield type of development. But again, the downside is there's limited current inventory up there for somebody to use.
So
Yes.
It's, no,
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go back.
it's on the other side of the new movie theater?
Yep. So this is Regal. This is the Riscalize, former Riscalize shopping center or office center. I think this is vacant. There's like an octagonal building, I think is up there. Yeah, that's just outside of our city limits, so it stops there.
Okay.
Right. And just trying to designate places that would be, again, isolated and be able to serve this type of use. That is the mortuary, I believe.
What?
Yeah. This one's the Palm Avenue area on the, what would that be, the north side or east side of Highway 49. This was chosen because it is buffered from E.B. Kane by the highway there. It's kind of an uphill. Most of the storefronts there point inwards, so there's not a lot of outward facing unless you're on Palm or you're in one of the actual shopping center itself. These ones are fairly well buffered on the backside. And looking at just opportunity sites, this came to mind. And these are some of these areas are looking like they could use some reinvestment and development. This is the High Street corridor. So you have Upper Lincoln Way. I tried to stay out of Upper Lincoln Way, try to stay away from the Boys and Girls Club and put it in a place that might serve downtown if you had a significant amount of traffic that was coming to one of these uses. If they're coming from out of the area, or let's say that they were used to going down to Sacramento and they lived in Roseville or Rockland, and they decided to come up, that they might have a chance of actually identifying that the downtown plazas here and that we have a lot going on in the downtown area. Also looking at an area that could use some reinvestment as far as investment in the actual buildings and storefronts, and there's a number of vacancies in this corridor. Again, the downside would be that some of these do have direct frontage on Highway 49. So sample regulations, time, place, and manner is what we're able to deal with. The place is what we were discussing. The manner now is what we're looking at. And I use these as just kind of, I don't want to say funny examples, because this is not something we would ever want to look like in our community. This one first has identified plant on it, which we would never want to have any type of identified plant. Never have the green cross out there. Lollipops in the middle would definitely be something we would not allow. Most of these things, in fact, the previous ordinance that I did, it was supposed to be nondescript from the outside. They were allowed to have their business name, but there was certain regulations on it. You couldn't have, a cannabis plant along, or any indication of the plant along with the name. They were allowed to identify it as dispensary, but it had to be on the building. It wasn't allowed to be some pop-up sign or blowing sign. If you look at the difference between these two, one is you can see product from inside the windows. Anybody walking by can see what this is. There's a lot of highlighted activity going on. That would be something that we would absolutely prevent. I use this as kind of the poster child. This is the one up in Grass Valley. They have no visible exterior markings. They have no neon signs. You cannot readily see any product from the exterior of the building. And as I put here in the kind of description here, we would want the exterior of the building to be unassuming in appearance and design, to blend into the streetscape of a historic Gold Rush era town. So really taking control of what that could look like is important. Other important considerations are odors. So we wouldn't want odors emanating from the building. We wouldn't want people just walking down the street to be able to identify what was going on inside. That goes for both the retail, or excuse me, the delivery, as well as for the retail storefront. Anything with multi-tenancy would have to have odor control, so it wouldn't get into other parts, an adjacent suite or other storefronts. So it'd have to be controlled completely. Definitely a security plan. This should be probably at the top. It's something that's approved by the police chief. It includes any number of things that we need at a certain location, including camera systems, lighting, security personnel, and so forth. Delivery only retailer should be very nondescript. This should be in an industrial area where you can park a number of vehicles and people would not identify that as a retail location, and all transactions would be made via delivery in accordance with state law. Loitering and those types of things would be prevented. You would not be allowed to just hang out on site of either one of these uses or within the proximity. Very similar to how Grass Valley has their ordinance. So there's a number of different ways of doing these types of things. You know, we've talked about cannabis tax before, and what that looks like. And staff is recommending we actually look at the development agreement approach. It's something that can be implemented without actually doing a tax measure. It's an agreement between the city council and the operator. You can also use a revenue agreement, another form of agreement to do this similar thing. It allows flexibility in our regulations. So each license that we would issue would be negotiated through this process. We could identify safety issues that we want addressed. We could identify labor. We could talk about where we want funding to go, what would we want them to participate in. One of the things that Provisions did was in their application, they actually said that we're going to be a participant in the community and we're going to donate funds, which is something that they did. And one of those things we can put into that type of an agreement. Also, one of the things it's a benefit of that type of mechanism is that by state law, you're required to review a development agreement every year. So if we are having problems with an operator, if state law changes, if there's things we want to see, if we want to talk about what our revenues look like, that can be done through this annual review process. And it's also something that's being looked at by other cities because it's more flexible. It provides a framework for regulation, security, and what those contributions coming from the cannabis operator are being used for and going to. So I don't know. I didn't go back and look at exactly when the meeting was, but it was about a year ago, year and a half ago, something like that. Well, it was right around the time where I think we actually had a fiscal emergency. It was direction by the council that said we need to diversify our revenues. We need to look at alternate sources of revenue to help offset potential future losses. And if you look at the tax structure here, again, I did a lot of my research in June, so they're 2025 or 24, 25 fiscal year budgets, but that was what they were budgeting would come in. As you know, a budget is a conservative estimate, which means that they're probably receiving upwards of that. At least you would hope so, because that would be their floor. And if you can see there's a significant amount of money being estimated. And, you know, the one with Sacramento there, I would venture to say that that's probably, well, I won't venture to say, I'm pretty sure, confident that some of that tax money comes from people in Auburn here that do go down, use their services, or are buying it through certain cannabis delivery mechanisms. If you look at even the Grass Valley, which is on the lower end, they don't do delivery. Nevada City does delivery, also does medical as well as rec. You know, there's a difference, but even on the low end of that scale, if you took our 10 largest tax providers in the community, the Grass Valley one would be on the low end of the top 10. Like Nevada City would put us more towards the top end of that. And so that would be a significant amount of revenue. You know, things are changing. You know, you all hear about the markets, the cannabis markets kind of going soft. We have the advantage because this is not going on much in Placer County, although the deliveries you can see, and there is an infiltration happening right now. But as getting out there, getting the name, and actually having a quality operator, I think would serve us into the long run here. Just getting that name established, people would know what it was, and they'd know that whatever was allowed in Auburn would be a really good community partner. Selection. So there's a couple of different ways to do this, and this is not the end way. There's different types of processes we can go through, but the first one is the most common land use type, which would be to put it into our land use ordinance and say, okay, you know, that cannabis operators are allowed subject to a use permit. We would only allow so many operators to happen, so it would be first come, first serve. So as soon as we passed that, it became legal. I would estimate we probably have a number of applications at our door trying to get through, because that would be whoever got in the door received as a complete application would be the first one we would look at for processing. The other way, the RFP process allows us to get proposals from different operators and have a committee that is guided by evaluation criteria that we would most likely establish with the council, so that they were recognizing that this is what we want this operator to do, what we want this operator to look like, and what we'd rank them highest on. And we would come back with a resolution or ordinance to say, these are the things we would want. Then we'd do a standard RFP. We'd accept however many applications would be received. They would be evaluated by a committee. That committee would probably look like one of our hiring committees, that maybe different members of the community stakeholders, and letting them go through that vetting process and scoring, and then providing us with the ranking that they then came back with. It allows whoever has the best proposal and meets that set of criteria to most likely prevail. And then we work through the process of putting together a development agreement with that individual, looking at the location, looking at the parameters we'd want to see at that location for safety, for all the other things we would want, and then and move it forward from there. Another way we could do this too is through the RFP process, but still going through the use permit process too, which would allow for even greater vetting through different legislative bodies and quasi-judicial bodies. Ultimately, it would come back to you guys for a decision in the end, no matter how it went. So staff's recommending that we use some combination of regulatory permit, development agreement, and RFP. Again, the RFP process allows for us to actually evaluate individual applications and not just take the first one through the door, to a limited number of permits as determined by the city council. In the staff report, we're recommending that you go with the one permit per 7,500 population. That is the same as Grass Valley has. Our population is a little bit higher, however, it has not been growing. So getting to the 15,000, which would be required for 2 permits, which we would limit to 2, is going to be a number of years should that occur. They have delivery at 6,500 people, and I raised ours to 10,000 because I think delivery is important here. But when they initially started out, they didn't allow their retailer to do delivery. I would say that we would offer that to, if somebody has a retail location, that they could also combine that with delivery. So you'd have a retail license that has the option for delivery in a storefront, and then you'd have one for retail delivery only. So how are we going to go forward? So should you direct staff to move forward? Well, the big question tonight is on the staff report is whether to allow cannabis operators in Auburn. Should you check that box, then provide the appropriate locations, which staff has provided 3 different locations there as options. We are not limited to that. I would like to note for the record that most locations in Auburn would not be suitable for a medical operator based on buffering requirements, and therefore we're pretty limited to doing adult retail, or excuse me, adult recreational. But they could, I mean, we could, the council could propose other options. And again, we're saying staff is recommending 1 retail storefront license and 1 delivery only license, subject to the thresholds that I outlined earlier. So going forward, should staff receive direction to move forward, we would then start working on the ordinance to amend the city's cannabis provisions, the potential zoning regulations, and use permits, if that's the mechanism we're also using going forward, to develop a framework. And we'll then return to the council, just like we would with any other one, to make sure that we're on the right path. So you'd receive another presentation from us saying, okay, we heard what you said at the last meeting. Here's what we've prepared. Where are we at? And if that looks good after review and direction to move forward from that meeting, we would begin the legislative amendment process, which would be the notice opportunity and so forth, coming back to public hearings and working through that process. And so if that's approved, then we would work, and once that's approved, we would then go through the licensing selection process, which would be whichever one we're directed to. Again, staff's recommending the RFP process. Man, how long did that take? I apologize. I tried to get through it, but there's just a lot of.
Thank
content
you.
there.
That was a very, very thorough presentation. But before we start out, I just want to say that, this whole discussion here tonight is really a community-driven discussion. We had the public come up and ask for this. So again, and I think our city council would like to have workshops before we do an ordinance. I think 1 or 2 are appropriate. So with that being said, we also have to understand that tonight is there's nothing binding. You're looking for direction so that if they're working towards something that they have an idea of what we want to hear about from the public, and then it will come back to us. So again, tonight we have a lot of things to look at and consider. One thing I wanted to ask before I open it up for questions and discussion, if we limit anything tonight, is it off the table or do we come back? How does that work?
If the city council were to provide us with direction, we would be following whatever that direction is. Now, council does have the ability to bring things back should they want to, or in the future, we have the ability to amend ordinances even after they're complete.
Okay.
He's going to say a much more detailed version of that.
Yes. So direction tonight on sort of the broad scope, these questions that are here. And then with that direction, staff will come up with an ordinance, and then that would come back under a normal first reading, second reading, and also a recommendation from your planning commission, because it will be a zoning ordinance and we'll need to amend the map and do a lot of other procedural things. But once that comes up to you here at the council, or even the planning commission could make a recommendation to change things, including number of permits, location, things like that. So none of this is set in stone even after tonight. We're just looking for these direction points so that we can take them and go and draft something. And then it would still be part of the discussion and subject to amendment and refinement from you all once the process gets started.
And I understand that. I guess my concern is if we have to look at a number of things tonight, and if we get to the point of picking locations, if we narrow it down to one small area, is that, how does that work? If there, I mean, that would, if we can broaden that later if we wanted.
Yeah, so you're saying if you were to pick like a certain number of square blocks in one area and then later you wanted to go to a different area or make it larger or make it smaller?
Yes.
So I think staff would ensure that your environmental document would encompass that broader bit so that your underlying CEQA determination would allow you to make that change once you get to the council discussion piece of this. But if that direction did occur, it would require some changes, right? So we would need to change like a map or an overlay zone, depending on how the zoning actually eventually works out and things. So it's not locked in stone, but if we did get that feedback, we would shift gears, and it might take one more meeting for us to draft the documents.
Okay, that's good. And what's the best approach here tonight? To do it one by one by number 1, 2, and 3, or overall? What's your suggestion here? Because there's a lot to go over here.
Right. We tried to put it in a framework where you just kind of check the boxes and work your way down. So.
Okay.
Just quickly too, Madam Mayor, I did want to point out, like, process wise, getting direction from council tonight, that doesn't negate the idea of that we're going to be doing some sort of a like public outreach, right? So we've talked staff about doing probably 2 different town hall sort of things. Not sure about the exact structure, but at least 2 town halls to get public input, because this is obviously a big issue for the community. So the direction tonight would be kind of to help frame the discussion for those public meetings, not to so much bring back like a draft ordinance to the planning commission at their next meeting. We're still a little bit away from that.
Yes. Okay. And I think that's what my point was before we start out. So I think we're all on the same page. We would like some public outreach. This is very informational. I mean, I have no idea about all the decisions that we have to make here in this community and the regulation. And so this is, I think, important to have public outreach and make sure that information is brought forward. There's a lot of work and information that you brought out tonight that was very informative, I think, for our public. So, and I'd like to hear from them. But with that being said, then I will open it up to our council. And we have 3 questions. If you want to just go ahead and talk about each and every one of those.
I have some just questions in general. Can I just ask some
Yeah.
general question before? Because I have some questions and I have some thoughts and comments, but I want to just ask a couple of questions on the presentation and so forth. The revenue that you had on the slide on page 85 of the presentation, I think it's on packet page 85, where you show the different cities and the revenue that they've collected, Grass Valley, Nevada City, and Marysville. Obviously Sacramento they have a moratorium right now on cannabis retail because they just have too many and they're having issues. And I don't even think that's fair to really use. I mean, I understand why, but in any event, with Grass Valley, they just have one retail and that's recreational only, correct?
Correct.
And then Nevada City has one. Do they only have one medical? They have medical. I know that, but I don't know if they have more than one.
They have one dispensary.
Do they have a dispensary? But it's medical, right?
It's both.
It's both medical and
Correct.
recreational.
Correct.
Okay. But Grass Valley is recreational only. And I don't know what Marysville, just,
Yeah.
I think Nevada City delivers too, right?
And Nevada City
you have a
delivers.
dispensary and a retail.
But not the, Grass Valley does not.
No, the Grass Valley is just the retail on the
Yeah.
recreations. I was just trying to get that in context. Do we know what Marysville has?
I don't.
Okay.
I know that they have 2 locations in Marysville, and that's what that's derived from. I don't know about the delivery aspect.
Okay.
It's not on here, but I know Colfax just went recreational too, so it'd be interesting to get some Colfax information and how it varies from what we're doing too.
Yes, because they just opened that up. It was medicinal and then they expanded to recreational, which then brings me to my next question, which is, some jurisdictions have chosen to just go medicinal or just go recreational. There are certainly different regulations for both. Medicinal is you can purchase your cannabis cheaper because they're not subject to the same tax structure. You can purchase at age 18 and above. Recreation obviously has a much higher tax rate and that regulation taxes from the state. And you have to be 21. So there's some differences there. And I noticed, and it's okay, but I did notice that you didn't really address whether or not that's something that the city of Auburn should do, one or the other or both. And what I would recommend is that would get tied into our town hall meetings that we would hold to see what folks are thinking, because they are regulated differently. Grass Valley picked recreational only because Nevada City had medicinal. And they also liked the fact that it was 21 and over for purchase. So there were some thoughts that went into that process in speaking with their council. The other thing is, let's see here. You answered my question on the grant. I wondered, on page 44 of the packet, you talked about one permit versus one permit based on population. And I think, did you say you just used what Grass Valley used? Is that?
For the dispensary, yes. They did 7,500 population per license.
Yes, well, retail, and you suggested one permit for 7,500 and one permit for 10,000. I mean, I'd rather have them consistent and say 10,000 each, but just wanted to see where you were getting that from, that number, how you picked that number. Okay, those were in my mind, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate, I've spoken with Sean about this too, and I know that it's been conveyed to all of us and you conveyed it as well, is that we really want to hear from our community. I know some of us have had folks come up and say, I'm in support or I'm in opposition, but I really think, and I'm fully supportive, a town hall, a couple town hall meetings. And in those town hall meetings, I think we need to discuss, whether or not we want cannabis sales and or distribution. Do we want medical or recreational or both? Do we want location? I think we should talk about that in the public setting as well. On the location, I honestly am not, I don't like the proposed location of High Street. I think it's too close to our downtown. But I think these are issues that can be fleshed out in our town hall meeting. But I'm just saying for the purposes of the record, that's not my favorite area. But I am very interested to hear what people say and what people have to say about this issue. But I think that those are important points to talk about in the town hall. So whether or not we want it, if we want to do just retail or distribution, I agree with staff with regards to the production. We don't want to have events and things of that nature. Cultivation, we don't want that. Outdoor cultivation, there's no way to really mitigate the smell. So I think I wouldn't even put those before the public. I think that, I think I would just frame it in the context of the issues that I had mentioned. So thank you.
Councilman Holmes, did you have some questions?
Yes, Colfax was mentioned, but did you look at what's going on in Colfax?
I couldn't find any information when I looked at it, but that was a while ago.
Oh, well,
I talked with their council members recently and they had some updated information, so you might reach out to their council.
I'm curious about, with all this additional bureaucracy, whether the city would have to hire additional staff to oversee all this.
It's looking at what Grass Valley provided. They did not have to up their staff by doing this. They actually were able to get an operator that they're very happy with, that has been a partner on this, and they have not, according to the police chief, seen significant upticks in crime or anything like that because of it. I would like to note that the grants that they did receive have gone towards SRO programs and things like that that also help with law enforcement in schools and so forth, and education.
Okay, I thought I read in some of the background material that the city of Auburn had approved cultivation license. Is that correct? Or
No, not commercial. That would be for personal use, 6 plants, indoor, and it has to be approved by the police chief through a licensing
do
process.
we have any of those?
Not that we're aware of. Not that are licensed by the police chief.
Some rogue growers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Holmes. Councilwoman Riddell Harris, did you have some questions?
I just wanted to put Chief Morrison up on the spot and have him come up and just tell us what his thoughts are from the police. He went on a tour with me of the Grass Valley facility, and he got to talk with their police chief and get a bunch of insights from them. And sorry to make you hand the dog off.
While he's making his way up, yeah, the whole council, I believe, toured provisions in Grass Valley. And so it was pretty educational, I think, for everybody.
So I just wanted to get after you did the tour and talked to all those folks, your thoughts on it as well.
Sure. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Brian Morrison, Chief of Police. To be quite honest with you, I was quite impressed with the Grass Valley location, the storefront, the manner in which they provided security right down from the natural design and environment that they built around it. There's a lot of thought put into it, from security cameras to protecting the storefront. Because my biggest concern would be, a rise in crime and it really impacting, the city and community of Auburn. And based on talking to the chief, they have experienced little to no increase in crime. But I think a lot of that is attributed to the measures and steps that they took in the design and the folks that they chose to actually run the business itself. So, you start talking to them, and what was really impressive is you could tell that they really wanted to be invested in the community by the steps and measures that they took at the vetting process. And that was super impressive to me. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
So,
Just quickly,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the question was about Colfax. They budgeted $43,000 in revenue for fiscal year 24-25.
they budgeted what now?
43,000.
Okay. Okay. So then from the council, do we have some opinions then about? Oh, I know she has an opinion rather than questions, right? Why don't we, yeah, we can go through the items then. Go ahead.
So you want me to go through 1, 2, 3?
Any way you want.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure we
I think I
we
just-
cover what you want to cover.
I have a question on the RFP and the location. So for example, if we have all of these locations through the RFP process, could we say, okay, so say we okay the things up Grass Valley Highway, right? But from our perspective of drawing people into town and drawing people into spending money, we don't think they're the best. Through the RFP process, could we say, well, this person wants to put it in a more desirable location, but if you already own a building and you want to do it up there, it's allowed, you know, like not saying it's not allowed, but driving the location towards somewhere we think would be more profitable to the city. That
So
makes
in the
sense?
RFP process, we can put parameters in there that require them just to provide us with renderings to show us what it's going to look like, to,
Yeah,
you know,
like,
provide
You're
how the
allowed to put
layout's
it up
gonna be.
here, but if we're choosing between someone who wants to put it somewhere closer to other businesses versus out in the boonies, we're going to go with, I would say we should drive people to where they're going to spend more money.
Understood.
Yeah, just to add on the RFP process, there will be some development of some criteria and scoring for that. So
Okay.
the way that other cities have done it, that's developed in some way, either by your planning director or by you as the city council, typically by resolution and authorized by the ordinance. And then you would open up the application for a period of time. Now, that might be 30 days or 60 days or something. At the end of that opening period, you've received a series of proposals. They're then scored against whatever criteria has been decided. Things like what you're talking about now, but there's lots of other criteria too that cities have gone through this a couple times. So there's some best practices too that we could look at what other cities have done. And then there will be someone selected at the end of that to then start the regulatory process. And then that selected company would then apply for the use permit or the regulatory permit and or the development agreement, depending on which combination of those you all ultimately choose.
Something to also keep in mind is in order, the way that Grass Valley did it, they didn't have to have a location selected at that point. They just had to have all the criteria and how they would lay out security and how they would. So it may be that we end up selecting somebody that doesn't have a location, or in their case, they actually had somebody who submitted with a location. So they had kind of the plans laid out, but that wasn't a requirement for them. So there's lots of different ways that you can go.
Yeah, and I'll
Right.
say on that point, the reason why Grass Valley and other cities do that, it can be difficult for a company to show that they have a right to lease a space until they have an approval from you all to do it, and then also to ask them to put up that money before they know that it's a real possibility. And so that's why it's often.
So do I hear you saying location isn't as important tonight then? I mean, you want a general idea, but
We'll do allowable properties, but yes, we're not going to be selecting where they'll go in those allowable
Right,
properties.
right. Allowable properties, but I guess my point is, I think, were you asking, can the allowable property be, can there be an expansion when they go through the RFP?
I think there's actually two questions related to location. The first is, where could it be allowed? And that's the
Yes.
question that we're asking tonight. And
Yeah.
then whether or not you want to allow a business in that specific location, which will come later in the process when you get applications.
Right, okay.
When we're
okay.
doing the RFP, rather than us saying that we want it in these couple places, rather than that, you would put what criteria of a building you would be interested in. It needs to have the right security. It needs to have the right walkability or access or AD, those kinds of things. And then that helps to determine what kind of buildings they would be able to select. So you just kind of put in what criteria rather than the actual parcels. So that's kind of how the criteria will be determined, and then that'll help figure out the best possible applicant that meets those criteria in the best way. I know I do
So-
this a lot. It's kind of a weird thing.
Does that answer your,
I think so. Basically, like,
Figure it out as we go.
there's some areas I would like to limit, but there's some that, you know, if that's where you want to do business, great. I just don't think it's the best for the city. Like,
So if you go
Don't-
back and look, you know, if you look at the maps that are in the packet that we had on the screen, I think what we're asking from council is, are those areas in red okay for potential cannabis use? If they're not, or if there's a specific parcel because of where it's located, would you like to cut that one out? And then after we create the criteria that we'll be putting in the RFP, we can put in there, the city would give preference for locations in this area versus this area. Doesn't mean that they couldn't go in this area. But if there's like, both are equal outside of that, then we would pick the side
Okay.
that we'd rather have.
We absolutely don't want something, we would cut it out.
Yeah, okay, cool. So then on that, I think the only properties that were of concern to me were the ones that were across 49 from Evie Kane. Just because I think there's a highway, but it's, the new sidewalks there. And potentially, and this might be a community question, the one kitty corner as well. That's just kitty corner for Evie Kane. Just so that it's not like you exit school immediately and there's a dispensary. So that was the only property that stood out to me. And then regulations on naming. And I think you kind of touched on that, but basically, I would like it to be discreetly named. I think that was, Nevada City and Grass Valley did a really nice job with that. I think that's it.
Okay. And Councilman Holmes, did you have an opinion on any of the 3 items that we were to be discussed? Location, are you good with the type of licenses recommended? Are you okay with the recommendations to go forward just for discussion and for workshop
Well,
discussion?
I am in favor of having a broader opportunity to talk to, have more people come
Yeah.
Town hall meeting.
to town hall.
Okay. Okay.
And- And Madam Mayor, I'm at the same, I really would prefer to involve the community and have these town hall meetings and then see what the public has to say and then give direction specifically to staff. I mean, I think that really, again, the question is, does the public want cannabis sales or distribution? Does the public, if so, okay, is there medicinal or recreational or both? I would like to hear from the public and then give direction after that. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, except that I do agree with staff with regards to some of the limitations with regards to the manufacturing, the events and things of that nature. I don't think that that's right for the city of Auburn outdoor cultivation. You have proposed several different areas. I've already expressed my opposition for High Street. I think it's too close to downtown. But if you want to take that to the town hall meeting and allow people to comment on that and the businesses and so forth, that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't,
you
what I,
stated that was good.
yes, but what I'm just saying is I just don't want to put the cart before the horse and say, oh, yes, I'm okay with this or that, because I haven't really had that, we haven't had that town hall meeting and really
So
hear from
yeah,
people yet.
to answer your question, then this is basically we're kind of discussing whether or not to go forward in terms of the town hall meeting, and then it'll come back before an ordinance is even written. Is that what
Yes.
I'm hearing everyone on the council
No.
saying? No?
That-
No?
I'd like to give enough direction to staff that the city has something, that our residents have something to comment on. Because us just leaving it wide open is going to be not as a productive
And
of a town hall meeting.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I think that's what she's saying. We want
What-
them to comment, but do you want staff to come back with an ordinance
After that workshop.
after?
Yeah.
Yes,
But
after
I
the-
think we need to decide these things are on this piece of paper tonight, so that way they can bring these items to the town hall and say, how do you feel about these items?
Well,
So
that-
we need to.
But
want to
I
proceed.
guess I'm not understand, I certainly agree that all these should be brought forward to town hall, but
Yes.
then shouldn't it come back to council? What if town hall says,
they
you
don't
know,
want it.
how do you quantify that?
If
You have to come, I would
Yeah.
think we'd have to come back so that we could have some sort of input from the town hall meetings, and then
Mhm.
we make the decision as to what goes
Yeah.
on the ordinance.
I agree. I
Maybe,
agree.
Yes.
I agree. I think we need to hear from the public.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of information here, and kudos to staff. I appreciate the amount of research you've done and the information that you provided to us. And this can be made, available to the public, and you've proposed different areas and so forth. Honestly, I like the RFP concept because that really gives us more control. But I really want to hear from the public because I want to hear, because again, I want to know, what if we get this overwhelming
And I-
opposition or overwhelming support before we
I-
start giving direction to staff?
I think we're saying the same thing. I think I'm just saying that we're giving staff direction to go forward to the public with these 3 items
Yeah.
tonight. And that's what I think. We're not necessarily deciding on these three things. We're just saying these are the things. Well, we're saying we want to get the public opinion and move forward. And then we don't have any major issues, or we don't want to take out any of these particular
Right.
locations before it's given to the public.
Right.
And that these are the licenses that we want to have discussed and described and all that stuff with the public.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
I
That's
just
where I'm
want to,
at.
I just want to make it clear that we're gonna, here, the question also is, do we want it or not? And do we want sales or distribution? And it's like, okay, yes, if there's okay, if we do, then do we want these other things? But I think that we have to have that rudimentary conversation of whether or not people want it or not. And then if they want, and I want to hear medicinal versus recreational. We haven't had any discussion of that really at the staff level. I mean, I know what the differences are from a regulatory perspective, but we don't know.
I guess that's
And I
we've
think-
been talking about it for a year and a half, and I've had many members of the public come up and talk to me, and I've talked with many members of the public. So I feel like I have a good sense of of whether we're doing cannabis or not, or whether we have public support. We obviously do from everyone I've spoken to. There's very rarely do I have anyone with any large concerns. Obviously it's the how that matters. And so
So-
the how is something that obviously I think we should be discussing with the public.
So you know what I'll do? I'll just bring out to the public right now for a minute and we can come back.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
fine.
hold your thought. So I'm going to open it up to the public, and I see a gentleman who been raising his hand. Come on forward.
Hello, I am Colin Maydall. I've been an Auburn resident for most of the last 30 years. I think having a recreational and a medical storefront in town would be great, both with the tax benefits. Myself with a chronic illness provides a lot of relief. But one of my years when I wasn't living here, I was living in East Sacramento on G and Alhambra across from McKinley Park. And through my bedroom window, you could see a dispensary, a therapeutic alternative. It'd been there for a long time, and they were great neighbors. They walked around the neighborhood twice a week, staff did, picking up trash. Not just trash from the dispensary, but just trash of taking care of the neighborhood and the community. I know a lot of people here locally that will either drive to Sacramento or employ delivery services here. There's still certainly plenty of people growing weed in their backyard whether it's in the city limits or immediately outside of the city limits. But having some type of storefront in town with good tenants, and like the dispensaries in Nevada City and Grass Valley, you go to them and go, oh, this is a well thought out, well executed plan, I think is something that Auburn could really benefit from. So just as somebody that lived next door to a dispensary, they were really good neighbors to have. And certainly Sacramento has all types of, good and bad. So it's just about picking the right one, finding the right location, which I think you guys are working on. So thank you very much.
Thank
I'll
you.
get
What's
out of
your
your hair
name
now.
again? I missed it.
Colin Maydall.
Holland B.
Colin
Colin.
Maydall. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Do I have any other public comment? Jared?
Mayor Amara, council members, as you well know, we started this over a year and a half ago, and here we are still trying to get there. Jonathan, you put together a great project. I think all of his information is right on par. All my research is identical to his. I think, if we compare our city to Nevada City, to Grass Valley, and we're looking for public outreach or having these meetings with the public to find out if we really want this, what difference are we from Grass Valley or Nevada City? We're similar in size. Our people are going to those cities and paying for those products up there, and they're reaping the tax benefits up there. The only thing that Auburn's missing is recovering that money from those retailers that are taking the money from our residents. So the longer we drag this out, the less money coming in for the city that we can use for the grants that Jonathan found, the tax revenue that we're creating. It's just going to take longer and longer and longer to get there. I feel like, and no disrespect, that this has been a long process, and no disrespect, feet are being dragged on this, that I think that we're at a point now with all the research that's been done that council members can make a decision tonight whether we should not necessarily open up a cannabis dispensary tomorrow, but maybe just move forward with everything that Jonathan's done so far. I mean, that's a great report to sit here and wonder what the public wants. We know what the public wants. They're already doing it. I'm sorry. I'll answer whatever question you have.
No.
Well, we won't want to engage here
This is my
today.
chance. I feel like you're driving this, Alice. I think you're driving the other direction. So I think that we have a good stand here. And I think
And just to help the situation here, we can do workshops in a timely manner. And I hear what you're saying, certainly. And I hear what you're saying. I think it's necessary to go out to the public formally and have some workshops, because not everyone is educated as you are. And, but I also agree, we do have to do it in a timely manner. I certainly agree with that. And
Okay.
I think that should be something that we should work toward.
great. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening, Cinnamon Pryor. So a few things. One, thank you, Jonathan, for putting such a thorough presentation together. So as a business owner downtown, there are a few things for me. I'm in support of it actually being in a single tenant building, first off, in part because of the odor situation. I formerly owned a nail salon. There is no controlling that odor. I was in a multi-tenant building, there's odor. In addition to that, in speaking to any nefarious activity or loitering or anything of that nature, my belief is that if you put it in an area where you're kind of tucking it away, that provides a greater area for those activities to take place. So in my estimation, putting it in a more prominent area, something such as provisions, which to me, they put it together as though it's a boutique, very classy location. You have no idea what it is. The name is nondescript. Location is nondescript. Walking in the front door, you wouldn't know until you actually walk through the door to see what's actually there. I think they did a really nice job with how they put that all together. And as far as the RFP, my question is, in speaking to what Jared was speaking to, the timeliness of pushing this forward, pushing this through in regard to the tax dollars that we are losing to other municipalities. Going back to that, lost my train of thought. Help me. Oh, what? No, it's not the medical or recreational. Thank you. Tax revenue. Speaking to the tax revenue, if we continue this process for too lengthy a period, we're continuing to lose those dollars. And I think one of the things that we could do, because I suspect that you're going to get a lot of applications coming through, and why could we not ask an application fee of a substantial number to qualify those individuals, to ensure that they are of a serious interest, of serious nature, to become part of the process of getting involved in the city of Auburn. And then through the RFP process, whittle through and have some serious presentations. They should be coming forth with a presentation that is thorough and respectful to what council provides as whatever it is that you decide moving forward.
Great. Thank you, Cinnamon. Any other input? Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Schmidt. I'm the owner of a retail cannabis dispensary and delivery in the city of Sacramento. I have over 14 years of experience operating successful dispensaries. Currently, we generate 8 figures annually. There is a time, over this time, I've learned how to effectively build, market, and operate high-volume compliant businesses. I see Auburn as an excellent location and premier cannabis dispensary. Currently, Auburn and Placer County residents must drive to Colfax and outlying areas and rely on non-local delivery services. While these purchases are being made, the dollar does not benefit Auburn's economy. A local dispensary would keep those purchases here. The right location can also revitalize downtown retail's corridor. Along I-80, travelers already stop in Old Town and at Forest Hill exit. A flagship dispensary in Auburn could capture the traffic and support the surrounding businesses, similar to what we've seen in Placerville. Many vacant downtown buildings could accommodate such use, most with sufficient parking to prevent impact on other businesses. Community safety is always top priority and strictly regulated by the law, by state law. No one under 21 may enter. Products are sold in child-resistant packaging, and all items are lab tested for safety. On-site security, funded by the business, ensures compliance with all requirements. Finally, I want to emphasize my interest in partnering with Auburn and help drafting a cannabis ordinance. Since I do have experience with the city of Sacramento, I believe I can provide valuable guidance and create balance and ordinance. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
input. Appreciate it. Any other public input? Okay, bringing this back, I just want to summarize, and then council can correct me if I'm wrong. So what I hear council saying and what I would like is that we go back and do some public outreach, if possible, and I believe we should do it as expeditiously as possible. I think this should be a top priority because I do agree we need to, people have been waiting for a long time. We are missing out on tax dollars, and if we choose to do this, and we're all back in school, everyone's around, it's perfect timing. So I think a couple of outreaches, bring it back to council, and I think what we want in terms of what we want to explore in Auburn is whether to allow cannabis, the appropriate locations of cannabis, which was all recommended. I think we're following basically the recommendation of the staff. And finally, that we want to look at retail and delivery and discussion on medicinal as well. But the locations we want discussed, as well as the staff recommendations on the other items. So I think we're all in agreement with storefronts. We're in agreement with keeping it on those locations to be discussed. Did you want?
Madam Mayor, I also agree with Councilwoman Davis about removing the locations that are across from E.B. Kane. I don't feel like those would be, especially how one of those locations is Auburn Gymnastics, which probably has more younger kids going to it than the Boys and Girls Club. So I don't mind the stuff across the street. That those locations seem like they would be there's some good buildings that could possibly be used, but I think that the locations that are directly across from 49 in that same parking lot is Auburn Gymnastics would be not a good location to be using.
So you're saying some of them on that area, but not all?
Yeah, the ones that are on the, I guess, south side of Palm Avenue, is that what?
Oh, okay. So
So
you're saying remove all those?
Yeah, because the one right in the middle is Auburn Gymnastics.
Where's
And they've taken most of that middle building, that's the white one that's like an L shape right there.
Mhm.
And so there's hundreds of kids going in and out of there all the time. And I just don't think that between that and being across the street from EV Kane, I feel like that's a good reason to just remove that location altogether.
Now, is that Crooked
Those
Lane
three.
in that area?
Crooked Lane's
Crooked Lane's up
there.
Okay, then is there any objection to that with council?
So just so I'm clear, it's really just those 3 parcels that are on this.
Yeah.
Yes, on the
Okay,
south
yeah.
side.
Yeah, I just feel like it's as valid as a Boys and Girls Club or, I mean, there's hundreds of kids that go in and out of there every day.
That's too close to EVK.
Yeah.
And it's right across the street from EV Kane. So I
I'm
feel like
fine
that's
with
fair.
removing them.
Okay. So, any other comments then? Then I think, yes.
Sorry. One more comment for the outreach. Can there maybe be some survey aspect or something so we can push it out to people who cannot come to a town hall?
Yeah, I would like that as well.
We talked
think
about
Jared
making it
did a survey
Zoom.
too.
When I talked to Sean about maybe we could also have, it in person, but also allow people to participate via Zoom and allow them to comment via Zoom. Because right now our council meetings are, we have them on the web, but we don't really have public comment. But I'd like to be able to give that as an option for those as well, for parents that can't come, that wanted
Still
to.
hard no matter what to get to a meeting. But if there was a survey,
Zoom
Yes.
is still hard, but
but
yes. if
everybody can
there's a
answer at the
survey.
end and you can send it to someone who didn't make it and they can provide the same,
Mhm. Survey Monkey. or
And I think it's valid just to bring forward Jared's survey that he took a while back too.
Can we ask that the public workshops be completed by the end of September, October? I'd like to put a time frame on it so that way we get this moving. What do you
I
think
think
is a fair time frame?
We should be able to do it by October, end of October.
End of
Right.
October? Okay,
Right.
so we'll put a time frame by the end of October.
Can I just, so
And sooner is fine.
Yeah.
I've heard that, 2 meetings got that. We're talking about virtual and possibly in person. Can we do one, in person and then do one virtual meeting? and do
I
that
think
way
that's
so we
appropriate.
Would
In-
kind of hit the criteria
First one, can we have it not during work hours though?
after hours? Got it.
Weekend or after hours, one of the two. Yeah,
in the evening.
just so it's not during the workday.
Okay.
So then, Madam Mayor, just with regards to the town hall, again, it's discussing whether or not folks are supportive of cannabis in Auburn, and then if it's sales or distribution. If so, sales
both.
and or distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if there's a preference for medicinal, recreational, or both, if
Mhm.
people are supportive. Locations, and then I think, and then the other questions that I guess RFP process in my mind is really a city,
That's us.
a city issue versus,
Yeah.
collecting the public's thoughts on that, but just hearing from folks where they are with regards to those.
Maybe just in general, bringing up different criteria so that way we can get a sense of what they care about for the RFP. I mean, like if they care about what it looks like on the outside or those kinds of things would be good for us to know. And then the other thing is, can we have it agendized so that way we don't have a limit of only having 2 council members there if we want to, in case we all wanted to.
Oh,
go?
Brown Act, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it,
Great.
Dave, just after those comments, that the license types that you're wanting us to address with the public are the ones that were suggested by staff? Okay,
Yes,
and
please.
we're not looking at cannabis events or anything like that?
No, or-
Okay, good.
No,
Cultivation and all of
Yeah,
that, yeah.
no,
Just checking.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
So directed, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for all the work you did. Okay. On to city manager report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple quick things, reports in the back and on the dais. So first up, our management analyst, city clerk, Amy Lind, has been named Employee of the Year. I just wanted to see you be embarrassed. So Amy was selected by the executive team as the Employee of the Year. She'll be celebrated at the Chamber of Commerce's Celebrate the Community event held on September 25th. So get your tickets for that. Amy's worked for the city for 16 years, starting as an assistant city clerk, became the appointed city clerk when voters approved changing that from elected to appointed. She received her certified city clerk designation in 2013 and her master city clerk designation in 2023. She's only one of 2 people that I know with that designation. I know that there's more, but I don't know any of them. And then she graduated from Leadership Auburn in 2012, that she says is the best class ever. So other people can argue about all that stuff. So she's worked with 4 different full-time city managers, one of them twice. Current one's the best. Numerous interim city managers, and has worked with 10 different mayors, many several times. So thank you for all you do for us. I appreciate it. I had Mendel run up and grab the kickball trophy, so that's behind you. We are the official 2-time, and I will also know only winners of the kickball trophy. So we are batting 1,000 on that. And then let's see. I'd like to acknowledge folks their work anniversary. So this August, several employees with significant milestones. So Andy Firkin, who's worked in our public works department for 19 years. Tony D'Ambrosi, 13 years of service on the fire department. Matt Bauer, 7 years with the fire department. Aaron Berthelsen, 5 years in the police department. Matt Gell, 4 years in the fire department. Some guy named Jonathan Wright, 4 years in the economic development, public community development. James Murphy, 4 years in fire department. Jamie Rosito Doyle, 3 years in dispatch. Eric Lynch, 2 years in public works. Cadence Mitchell, 2 years in public works. Justin Orton, 2 years in human resources. And Matt McCarthy, 1 year in the fire department. And then lastly, upcoming meeting schedules because of the holidays coming up. September and October, we'll have the regular council schedule. In November, we'll have a meeting on November 10th. We won't be meeting on the 24th because that's Thanksgiving week. In December, we will be meeting December 1st for the council reorganization. So selecting new mayor, new vice mayor. And then Monday, December 8th will be our regular business meeting. And then we will go dark until the first meeting in January.
Mr. City Manager, do we have a date for the state of the city yet?
No.
Okay, just curious because
Working on it.
other cities have been talking about it lately, so I just wasn't
All
sure.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to, what is? I lost my thing. Oh, okay. Sorry. Lost my stuff here. Okay, so yeah, future agenda. Discussion and identification of topics that require attention in upcoming meetings. This section allows council members to propose new ideas, unresolved issues or projects. Anybody have anything? Okay, on to city council committee reports. Anyone have any committee reports?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a committee report, but I wanted to encourage anybody watching. September 4th at 6 o'clock, there's an active transportation plan workshop for the community to review the proposed maps and give feedback and learn about the project. So that can be accessed on the city website.
I'll make sure it's on the city website somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. Have a link to it on the city
Thank you.
website.
And there's also a map posted. If you can't make it, you can provide feedback on the map. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now anybody else? Sorry.
Oh, I'll just say the first youth commission meeting of the year is also going to be on the 4th. So we'll get all of our youth members together and start figuring out our group project this year.
That's great.
Councilman Holmes, anything? Any committee? No? Councilwoman?
We had SACOG last week. The bulk of the meeting really was just performance review, but it was a good meeting. And we are going to have our next meeting it's actually at Bishop's Pumpkin Farm in September. We try to visit different regions. So, but part of that is a tour of Beale. So that's why we're going to be meeting there. So we'll be having a tour of Beale for SACOG.
Sustainability met, and the hardscape for the front lawn they're working on that. That should be done the end of September. And they have the Resource Conservation District will pay and deliver all the plants. Jeff Ambrosia is going to be the project manager, and ribbon cutting will be in the future per Sean. He wants to make sure that we do that.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
I just wanted to know the donation of the plant material and having Jeff Ambrosia serve as a volunteer project manager for that project is really outstanding. It's a big
Yeah.
deal because the planting material by itself was, I don't know how much that was going to cost. So
Oh, yeah.
really good job by sustainability to get that done.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. And if anybody wants to see the plans again, I think you've seen them. I'll have them in my box and just take them. And then we have the garbage cans. The parking lot, one committee member brought up that the jury parking lot is always full of trash. And so I brought it up to Sean. We need 2 very inexpensive garbage cans if we could, because there's one person from sustainability that's always picking up trash. And it's not left by farmers market. It's just people using it all day long. And we want our city to look clean and nice. So that was something else that they brought up. And that's basically it for now. So that's all I have. So with that, I do want to adjourn this meeting in honor of Jimmy Wall. And did you want to say something about him?
I wanted, he, recently passed away and folks often refer to him as an honorary mayor. He was, quite an individual, supported racing, and the Funk Box Derby was something that he just loved, and he'll be missed. So
Absolutely. So thank you for doing that. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting.